Calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. And move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can all stand. All line the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go.
Item 3 on the agenda is appointment of district clerk. Resolved that Anthony Sinacchio be appointed as the district clerk effective July 1st, 2021. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 on the agenda, oath of office for new board members. Kelly Rossiter and Michael McCall, congratulations. Before you proceed with your new 3-year term, we need you to take the oath. If you could repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of New York.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of New York.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the board member of the Marcellus Central School District according to the best of my ability.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a board member of the Marcellus Central School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you both. Item 5 on the agenda is election of president. I'm now accepting nominations for the office of president of the Board of Education for the current school year.
I nominate Michael McCall. Second.
Are there any other nominations? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, Mike.
Thanks.
You have been elected to president of the Board of Education for the 2021-26 school year.
Congratulations.
For the record, I abstain from the vote.
Okay. I'll now accept nominations for the office of vice president of the Board of Education.
I'd like to nominate Christine Shea.
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. All right, Mike and Christine. We'll now administer the oath of office to each of you. I'll go ahead and read the, actually, if you want to just read the whole thing, you have it right there in front of you. No bother with the repeat. Go ahead.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of president of the Marcellus Central School District according to the best of my ability.
Okay, congratulations. And I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. McCall.
Item 8, appointment of officers. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the following appointments for the 2021-2022 school year. You have the list in front of you. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Appointment of external auditor. Resolved that the Board of Education appoints Grossman St. Amour CPAs PLLC external auditor for the 2021-2022 school year. I have a motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Janine? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Appointment of financial advisor. Resolved that the Board of Education appoints fiscal advisors and Marketing Incorporated as the Marcellus Central School District's financial advisor for the 2021-2022 school year. May I have a motion?
Motion, Christine.
Christine? Second?
Second.
Kelly? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 11, other appointments. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the following appointments for the 2021-2022 school year. You can see items number 1 through 27. They have a motion.
Motion.
Janine, Second,
Second, Sean.
Sean. Comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 12, designations. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the following designations for the 2021-2022 school year. You can see those items 1 through 4. May I have a motion?
Yes, Patty.
Patty? Second?
Second.
Kelly? Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Authorizations. Item 13, resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the following for the 2021-2022 school year. Excuse me, you can see items 1 through 7. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Janine? Second?
Christine.
Christine? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 14, excuse me, certified lead evaluators for the 2021-2022 school year, whereas the following persons are considered as certified lead evaluators for the 2021-2022 school year, as outlined in section 30-2.0 of the rules of the Board of Regents, having participated in lead evaluator training provided by the OCM BOCES, which included the required components. Excuse me. Michelle Brantner, Jean Charlo, John Durkee, Catherine Cook, Robert Montgomery, Kara Lux, Michael Free, Eric Hubbard, and Michael Morgan. Resolved that the Board of Education recognizes the above listed as certified lead evaluators for the annual professional performance review. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Kelly, second.
Second.
Sean, comments or questions?
I just had a question. The lead evaluator, just exactly what the role is, the training, just a little bit more. It's all through APPR. I guess I'm just not as familiar with the role.
Sure. It's basically a fancy way to say these are the people that evaluate teachers in the district. And when APPR came into play, the state published requirements for training. And initially there were things called network teams created. And those network teams, in some cases, were housed at BOCES. So in the case of this region, OCM BOCES sort of took on the responsibility of providing the training that was required by the state for lead evaluators. And again, fancy word for they're evaluating teachers.
So these are the people that are doing the observations, the
These are-
walkthroughs, all.
Totally.
Okay.
Yep. But they have a fancy term now called a lead evaluator. And they get sustained training, which is great. I mean, back in the day when I started, that's not how it was. And, you know, we work internally. One of the other requirements is that we work internally to ensure inter-rater reliability so that we're making certain that no matter who is observing you, there's parity in the, you know, the types of feedback or the things that they're looking at or how they look at things. So it's honestly a much better process in that way and much better evaluation process. I mean, the conversations that you have with staff are dramatically different than how it used to be, for sure.
Michelle, you may have said this, and forgive me if you did. How often are the, excuse me, are the evaluators trained
Annually.
annually?
There's an initial training that's more comprehensive.
Right.
And then every year they receive additional training. Or we, I should say we.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 15, appointment of Committee on Special Education, CSE. Resolved that the Committee on Special Education for the 2021-22 school year be appointed as follows. In accordance with the provision of Education Law, Section 4402, to ensure timely evaluations and placement of students. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Janine? Second?
Second, Sean.
Sean? Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 16, appointment of Committee on Preschool Special Education, CPSE. Resolved that the Committee on Preschool Special Education for the 2021-2022 school year be appointed as follows in accordance with the provision of Education Law, Section 4410, to implement the provisions of Section 200.16, the Commissioners Regulations. May I have a motion?
Yes, Patty.
Betty, second.
Second.
Kelly, comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 17, appointment of subcommittees on special education. Resolved that the subcommittees are established for each school for the 2021-2022 school year to perform the function of the Committee on Special Education pursuant to the provision of Education Law, Section 4402, except when a student is considered for initial placement in a special class outside of student school of attendance, or a school primarily serving students with disabilities, or a school outside of the student's district. I have a motion.
Yes.
Patty, second.
Second?
Janine? Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 18, appointment of impartial hearing officer. Resolved that the superintendent of schools is authorized to appoint an impartial hearing officer for the 2021-2022 school year to maintain SED timelines. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Kelly, second. Christine? Comments or questions? So, Michelle, a hearing officer would be in the case of if a student is suspended for five days or more, is that it?
This is actually for special education. So if the Committee on Special Education makes a recommendation and there's disagreement on the part of the parents, they can ask for an impartial hearing, and then an impartial hearing officer would be assigned to hear why the CSE thought one thing and what the parents think, and then they would make a determination about placement or services for a child. So you're thinking of a superintendent's hearing,
Right.
which, yeah, we have someone that comes in and does those as well, but
And this allows you to appoint that impartial hearing officer
yes.
from a pool?
Yep, there's actually a list that the state education department maintains of people that can be impartial hearing officers, and frequently you'll get an email from SED adding or removing someone, so it's from a list.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 19, bonding of personnel. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the following bondings for the 2021-2022 school year. You can see them 1 through 7. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Patty,
Aye.
second.
Second.
Kelly, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 20, consent agenda. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the following for the 2021-2022 school year. You can see items 1 through 10. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Janine, seconded.
Second.
Okay. Comments or questions?
We just need to clarify if in fact the board, it's the pleasure of the board to maintain a committee of the whole for the audit committee. So that's the first, a committee of the whole for the policy committee. And that would mean every single one of you serves on both of those committees, which is how things have been done. And then getting, let's see here, a person or two for our facilities committee.
I, for one, am in agreement with the whole board serving as the audit committee and, the policy committee. Excuse me.
I agree with that.
Mhm.
Is there anyone who is opposed to that? And what about, is anyone able or willing to serve on a facilities committee?
I can do that.
Mike? Awesome.
I would as well.
Sean? Fantastic. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 21, end reorganizational meeting. Resolved that the reorganizational meeting be adjourned and the regular Board of Education meeting be convened. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Kelly, second.
Second.
Sean? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 22, presentations, COVID-19 update.
Just, sorry to even say the words, but just wanted to keep you apprised of any new information that I have, which is nothing. There's no additional guidance that's been released yet for school opening. I certainly will keep you posted. I hope no news is good news, but I know that there is going to be something coming forth, and we'll just have to wait and see what that is. Also, I wanted to let you know that Onondaga County did receive a very large, as you can see, $11 million grant to expand COVID testing in our region. And they were looking to partner with school districts for next year so that we would be hosting regular testing here at school. We did have a conference call with county officials, and what I shared with them is the perspective that I felt I garnered from the community when we hosted testing clinics previously and had to cancel them all, which is that this community is not terribly interested in this point at continuing to test. I'm going to make the broad assumption largely because we have done a very successful job at keeping cases at bay. It hasn't been spreading in school, and they just didn't see a real need or urgency for doing so. So they would be looking for us to host weekly testing and our personnel to perform the testing. As you know, we did have a team here. I was on the team doing athletic testing. I did share with the county that it was very unlikely that our community would sign up for testing, and probably it would only occur under two conditions. One, if people didn't have to wear a mask, they might likely sign up to test if that was a way out, or if it was a way to avoid quarantine or be released early from a quarantine. That might be another reason. So that's sort of where it sits. I haven't heard anything else, but I did want you to know that update.
Michelle, I have two questions. So the first one is, this would just be for our school community. It wouldn't be for other schools to come in, correct?
Right, they would be looking for individual school districts.
And would the county require a minimum number that we would have to guarantee them, or do they not care?
I'm guessing because they're talking, remember a year ago when we talked about that pool testing where they collected, in 12s and submitted the pools? That's what I believe they're really looking to do. If you remember, that never materialized. We talked about it and then it never happened. That's sort of what's back on the table, is doing pool testing. But again, people became very gun shy about testing because, there's people walking around asymptomatic that never spread it to anyone, never show a symptom. And the last thing they want is more unnecessary quarantine.
And then those last two bullets, and you're probably going to answer this with the first bullet. Do you foresee students returning in September having to students and staff, for that matter, having to mask?
I was very encouraged that maybe that would not be the case at the end of the school year when there was that little flutter of snafu. Announcements made that masking would end, and then it ended up being, no, we're going to keep you masked except outside because it's 2 weeks till the end of the school year. So that made me think, oh, okay. And I still am holding out. I am an optimist, remember. I am still holding out hope that we will enter the school year not having to mask. My personal opinion is that will be used as a tool if things start taking a turn, that it will be now everyone has to mask up. And I think that's sort of how the mandates will roll. I don't know if I'm right. I don't.
If somebody is vaccinated, hasn't it been supported, through research that then they are not passing it on if they are vaccinated? So if a staff or student is vaccinated, shouldn't that make them, if they're told to wear masks, shouldn't that make them free from mask wearing?
One would believe that to be true, seeing as we are living that way now, that it should carry into the schoolhouse. One of the hard lessons I learned over the last year and a half is that there were two sets of rules. And so I'm uncertain about what will happen going forward. I don't think I don't think it'll be a wonderful idea if everyone has to mask in light of what's currently going on, and we don't have to, and things are okay. I think it's going to cause a real issue, honestly, and maybe it should. You know, why would, especially with very young children, we were working our hardest to keep masks on the older kids because they know there's places they can go and don't have to mask, especially if they're vaccinated, and it's a huge challenge, you know, to have this double standard. And when they ask why, you know, your answer is because someone said so. I mean, I don't have a real strong scientific basis to show them anymore. I also think some of this is potentially contingent upon how low the vaccinations can go. And the talk was by the end of July, they would be prepared to vaccinate younger children. I honestly haven't seen or read or heard anything within the last week or two about how that's trending. I reached out to Yana with a couple of vaccine questions I have, but I didn't ask her that one. She may have some additional information for us as well. But right now, I'm hoping with the way things are working out in society that we'll be able to start the year not masking and not social distancing. The problem will be there will be people in your midst that are not vaccinated.
But then they can wear masks.
They
They're not
could.
gonna tell you.
So,
I hope they don't have to distance because that will become impossible. I would have to literally label them in some way.
Right, and I think that's
Yeah, how
part
do
of
you-
the reason that you're gonna
Because
see.
people will wear masks, you know, people will wear masks going forward out of personal choice, vaccinated or unvaccinated. I'm
Right.
sure you see people like I do
Yeah.
wearing masks that are probably vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to feel like I have to put like a scarlet letter on someone, whether or not they have to do X, Y, or Z, and I'm uncomfortable,
And
honestly.
I think that's where you would see the mandate that everybody's gotta learn, because people.
Which is equally egregious.
Exactly, no, 100%, I'm not
Keep
saying
it in
I
their
don't,
pocket.
I'm just
Keep it in their
saying that
pocket
that's a lot of the
to
reason.
implement if needed come
Yeah.
fall, winter.
My hope is that's the pragmatic approach. And
but I would also
that's the
think
person
you could ask for proof of vaccination. That should do it. You shouldn't have to make somebody wear a mask that's vaccinated.
Right, and there's talk, you know, I have parent questions, I've had them all along. Do I believe that this vaccine will be mandated? I originally thought, based on Cuomo's record, you know, for removing religious exemption, I never thought I would see the day where, you know, the government would take away a religious freedom, and that happened. And so then I thought, well, his direction would be to mandate a vaccine. But there's been no talk of it. So I know that now that the SUNYs and CUNYs, and maybe some private institutions are also mandating, I think, Mike, you told me.
Both.
Yeah, Colgate is too.
And Colgate.
Bonaventure and Hartford.
I think a lot of colleges are
Yeah.
mandating, and that's going to potentially, you know, lead to a mandate. And I do think some parents are gonna struggle quite a bit if they're young children. And I mean, I've had this, you know, moral dilemma in my own mind. If I have a young child who's really not at risk, am I putting him at greater risk by giving him an unnecessary vaccine? And so I don't envy people's positions. My hope is it'll remain a choice. That's what I got, friends, and I will keep you and the community up to date if anything changes.
Building project update.
I just wanted to follow up a little bit on our discussion last time, and definitely appreciate the discussion that we had. And I did send out additional information to you, but felt we should bring that information into the room as well. And I have some photos and can talk a little bit more. So the E-layer is now completely removed, as I'll show you in a minute. We just went back and reviewed some of our initial investigation, did a little bit more investigation. regarding the sheets rather than the rolls. I think in the update I provided, I shared with you that in the Port Byron project, for example, if you've been over to their facility, beautiful facility, the sheets were actually spec'd in their project. That was what the contractor spec'd. So that was good for me to hear, simply because that was somebody's first choice. It is a more labor-intensive option, which I believe is why it's often not spec'd, because it costs more money for them to put down due to the labor intensity of it.
So sheets are more expensive.
Correct. We needed to clarify the sheet measurement, so I did get that, 7 feet 5 inches by 3 feet 1 inch. And we had to do some negotiating. Our construction manager, Sean Dalloway, who was at our last meeting talking to you, he had to do some negotiating because it is a more expensive process, more labor intensive, and time is money. And the contractor was willing to go with the sheet product and honor the price in the original bid, and largely driven by Sean's efforts, and secondly, driven by the fact that once you get out of the queue, he was talking about this last time, turf work, you're in a queue with all these different facets of the project. Once you get out of line, you're really gonna cost them some money. So they didn't want to get out of the queue either, which was an additional sort of pressure.
Do we have a completion target date?
So our completion target date is somewhere around the first week of September, and that's if we have a perfect summer. We were hoping to have to play a couple games elsewhere, definitely have preseason workouts elsewhere, and then get on the field.
And was that the anticipated completion date before the E-layer issue? That was all along, correct?
That was all along. I haven't asked for an update yet, only because it's a little early in the summer too. But I figure in the next couple of weeks, they're making good progress. We have had some rain that's been dramatic, but a lot of our rain has been, it pours and then it stops, and within a half an hour, you can't tell it rained because it literally is evaporating back into the air. And so I think that's helping us to some degree. Mike?
So I'm going to assume that with the sheets, there's a lot more seams. How are these adhered? Are the seams connected somehow with the fact that there's more seams? Does that
I am sure there is
impact
a way that they are.
does that affect the integrity of it, of the underlayment?
The other folks that have this product have had no issues with the integrity. I don't know how the seams are connected. I don't know if Ryan has had that discussion, but he says no, he has not. I will make sure I get that information so that you understand how it's adhered together. I don't know if it's interlocking or exactly how they put those together. So this is a picture of the field with a large portion of the E-layer removed. So you can tell this area, bring my mouse to show. So this area over here that I'm circling closer to these two light poles, that's E-layer that's left. And you can see these rolls. They devised a system where they were using a piece of pipe and they would position it so that the E-layer would roll up, and that was a way for them to move, and then they would cart it off into piles and then remove it from there. And then this was just another perspective so that you could see the rest of the field where the E-layer has been removed. I think last time Sean talked about the variety of tools they use for the purpose of leveling. And one of the things he talked about was literally doing like string line leveling, which is what I call old school. And so you can see they had strings run and we're using string line leveling to determine some things. And then the more high tech are these GPS systems. So these are machines that are equipped with GPS, and these are also GPS poles. And they literally, with this system, can get it to within a half an inch And then they have a different attachment that I couldn't get a picture of it. It was boxed at the time. It's an attachment that goes on the machine that uses lasers, and that they can get even more precise with. So I had quite a conversation with the foreman on this job, and he was telling me, listen, everybody that's working on this field and the people working for you, check the level on this field. Because no one wants to own the mistake, because no one wants to come back, during the warranty period and have to redo this, because it is super costly. So everybody that comes in before they do their part, they also check the level. So it's going to be checked and checked and rechecked, which is very comforting to me. It's not just one person saying, yeah, we're good. It's multiple people.
And I think that he was saying too, that this technology was not around when this was originally installed.
Right.
So they feel pretty confident that the leveling will be better than when it was originally installed.
It wasn't. You had to have a lot more real pride in your work and precision. You had to have real detail-oriented people, because I think you could still get a great deal of precision back then, but you had to want to be that precise, But you're right, this technology can probably get them to a quarter of an inch or less, whereas maybe before a half inch would have been super precise. And potentially fine, right? I mean, maybe it worked for years, but now you can make it even better. So that's what I have so far on progress, and I put in your update too that I'll use these photos to do a video for the community. And I know a couple of you have gotten questions. There's already starting to be bantered about whether or not we'll be on the field in the fall. I'm optimistic that we will see the field in the fall. It is dependent on some higher powers and what our weather looks like, but hopefully we're going to be moving in a good direction and the kids will see some time on this field.
And that, correct me if I'm wrong, that was always the plan, for lack of a better term, correct?
Yep, what I have communicated consistently was that preseason and the beginning of the season would not happen. We would not have home games, and the preseason we'd be doing preseason elsewhere.
And that's because we had to wait until June 1st.
Correct. So, and that's because we wanted our spring kids to have somewhat of a season. So what we did is we borrowed on both sides, a little bit here and a little bit here. And especially this spring, so critical that those kids have something, because they had nothing last year.
Any other questions? Item 23, business. 23.1, school breakfast and lunch prices for 2021. 2022, resolved that the Board of Education approves the 2021-2022 school breakfast and lunch prices as follows. You can see them there. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Patty? Second?
Second.
Kelly? Any comments or questions? Michelle, are these are prices, but correct me if I'm wrong, there still is free breakfast and lunch, correct?
Correct.
But we have to have a price.
We're having a price, yeah. Part of the reorg, or part of the initial meeting, not the reorg, sorry, where you set your prices. So,
And
Don and I spoke about this, and so we both felt that you should establish prices. We don't really know whether the USDA might rescind the free program. Not very unlikely, but in case they do, we have prices.
do we know right as of now what that potential end date might be? Will it be December 31st? Will it be June of next year?
June of next year.
June of next year.
So it's sort of that it's just a fail safe, making sure we have set prices in case, God forbid, something changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 24, personnel. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the following personnel items. You can see 24.1 through 24.7. I have a motion.
Motion.
Sean, second.
Second.
Kelly. Any questions?
I just had a question. Do we have assistant coaches just at the varsity level? Do we have that for all sports?
Meaning, why is it called varsity football, assistant varsity?
Right.
I couldn't give you, honestly, off the top of my head, Janine, the list, but we have many assistant coaches at the varsity level. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head right this second if every single sport has one.
Aren't all of the assistant coaches considered assistant varsity, even if they coach JV or?
They
freshman?
are, but in the case of Levon and Lee, varsity has two assistant, or actually an assistant position that they're splitting. It's one assistant position. And Jim Seeley is going to be the JV football coach, but every coach is also listed as a varsity assistant. That's a practice that's been in effect here longer than me.
Then none of these are new positions. They're just,
No, ma'am.
some may be filled by new people, but not.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll abstain for that.
Sorry.
24.7.
6, aye, 1 abstention. Item 25, consent agenda. Resolved that the consent agenda consisting of the following items be approved, 25.1 through 25.3. I have a motion.
Yes.
Janine, questions, or excuse me, second. Sorry. Second,
Second. I'm sorry. Yeah.
questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Bless you. Item 25, informational items. Board workshop.
So I got us down to, I don't have 100%. I don't have a date that I put for the summer where we could get 100%. This is the closest we've gotten. So the majority could attend the 2 dates I have listed. So we could say, well, we'll choose one of those dates and we'll get as many people there as we can. Or we'll say, we're gonna wait till the fall and Michelle will put out a whole new set of dates and ask you to indicate which ones we could make, hoping we could get 100% participation. So I guess that's question one.
I think waiting, it's pretty unlikely that we'll ever get, you know, like we might as well just roll the dice with what, you know, the best we can do.
Summertime is
Right.
little difficult, is a lot harder for a lot of people than
Okay.
school year time.
Okay.
Do we feel that, I would like to have as many, if not all, involved. I mean, if in the fall, if that would be more, if that would be more likely. So for me, it's a kind of a conflict. I want to do this as soon as possible, but I also want everybody involved. And I know that is conflicting.
Excuse me, no, you go.
Would it be the same day as we meet, like a Monday evening? Or are we sticking to like the same day of the week or not necessarily?
Whatever you guys want.
The dates that
If we
had on the
picked
schedule
a
weren't-
Monday that wasn't a board week, it would just be like having another board meeting, kind of. Would that work better for people?
Yeah.
So if we did something maybe in mid-September, I know it's kind of crazy once school opens, but maybe in mid-September, like, I don't know, just,
The 13th is that Monday. We have a board meeting on the 7th, and then the 13th is the Monday, but we would be meeting 3 weeks in a row.
the 7th?
No, the 13th.
Oh, I'm
This
sorry.
is the non-meeting week.
Yeah.
Next year, I don't know why. Yeah. The 13th?
Yes. Should we
13th?
vote on the 15th?
You want to try to do the 13th? I'm sorry, there's a, Labor Day is the 6th, 13th is not a meeting?
No, the 7th.
The
is our
7th?
meeting. We always have it.
Seven.
The 6th is Labor Day, so we always meet on Tuesdays that first week.
So do you want to pencil in the 13th with the hopes that NISBA is available?
September 13th.
September
we do it?
13th?
I'm okay.
Yes, I can
Yep.
do that.
Yes.
We good, Mike?
Yep.
September 13th, Michelle.
All right.
Tell them to make themselves available.
So the next piece I have is that, the last time we did a workshop, which was ages ago, we went off-site. I got a room at the in-between, and they did dinner for us there, and we had a nice little room, some of you probably remember it. We had our dinner, and we were able to meet there. That's one option. Another option, that we also did this too, maybe that was the last time, where we met here, and we had it catered by Daniels. So I just wanna, if we're gonna book this, I wanna make sure I can get all the preparations made. So do you have a preference? Do you like the thought of just going someplace else? And not,
I like that
you know,
idea.
just having that change to sort
Sure.
of clear your heads a little?
Mhm.
So is the in-between something that interests you?
Sure.
They seem to have nice space.
Yes,
Why
I
don't I
agree.
reach out to them?
Convenient.
My only question is, would the presenters need technology? And-
They bring it in.
Oh, okay,
There, yeah.
So that wouldn't be an
Yeah.
issue, okay.
Good thought, though. All right, I will, thank you. September
That's good.
13th, in between, I'll see what I can, see what magic I can work.
5 to 8, right? Still going with the same time, 5 to 8
Does 5 to 8 work? Dinner? Yeah.
instead of.
I'm sorry, what time, Mike, did you say?
Well, the same 5 to 8 time
Oh,
frame,
okay, sure.
which is obviously different from the board meeting, but.
Sure.
on a Monday again? So
Yes.
Yeah.
Gives you time to have dinner and then still about 3 hours of content.
Could be a working dinner too.
Yeah, that'd be better.
6, you want me to try for 6 to 8?
No,
No.
5 to 8.
5 to
Okay,
8.
just a working dinner.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Item 26, resident comments. Are there any resident comments?
No.
I missed that earlier?
I think this was the only time I've appeared on the.
Okay, good. Didn't miss it then. Item 27.1, enter executive session. Resolved that the meeting in public be adjourned and an executive session be convened for the purpose of discussion of the superintendent's contract. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Patty? Second?
Second.
Kelly? All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Time is 7:43.